Ladies and gentlemen, this is probably one of the most amusing news stories of the past couple of years. This is the New York Times. Very objective. They definitely write headlines like this for President Biden. Trump, hungry for power, tries to rustle away GOP fundraising. Madam Secretary Hillary Clinton had an actual agreement with the DNC where you had, $80 million according to Politico. Just really quickly, let's just look this up. I just popped into my head right now. DNC Clinton fundraising agreement. So, inside Hillary Clinton's takeover of the DNC, Politico, this is actually by Donna Brazile. But most of the money, DNC sought to hide details of Clinton funding deal. So the Democratic Party is paying millions for Hillary Clinton's email list. This is hilarious. She derived an email list from the Democratic Party and then sold it back to the Democratic Party. But now it's, oh my God, he's hungry. He has a thirst, this desire to take over the poor Republican Party. Oh, what are they going to do? Maybe they can fundraise with Mitt Romney and Ben Sasse and Kinzinger and Justin Amash and all these wonderful Republicans who are they electrify audiences and crowds, and they create so much enthusiasm for the GOP. Why don't they just, they tried to undermine Trump for 10 years. For 4 years. They undermined Trump for 4 years. They signed they signed off on investigations predicated upon a dossier that Clinton purchased. What's behind the claim that Clinton got $84 million? Okay, hold on one second. That's a different... There's a Politico article. There's an interesting Politico article where not only does it talk about... You're talking about, down ticket Democrats. Okay, sorry. So, really quickly, now I can't... But during the 3-month period when the DNC was working to spin the situation, state parties kept less than half of 1% of the $82 million raised through the arrangement, validating concerns by campaign finance watchdogs, state party allies, and Bernie Sanders supporters. This is, of course, in 2016. So you're talking about the vast majority, less than half of 1%, so almost 100% of $82 million Democrats raised went into Clinton's campaign and her PACs. But my God, Trump is a horrible monster. So I'm going to give you perspective. I know exactly how the Democratic Party works. I was a lifelong Democrat. I'm going to give you perspective as a former. I used to be the biggest Bernie Sanders booster on the internet, according to the Huffington Post, the unofficial scribe of Sanders' most hardcore voters, according to the Washington Post. I'm going to give you a perspective of somebody who was on the far left, who became a supporter of President Trump primarily because I want Americans out of never-ending counterinsurgency conflicts. May 1st, 2025 is when we're supposed to end our involvement after 20 years in a region of the world that President Biden wants to keep us within. That's the moral case for Trump. If I'm speaking like an apoplectic, morally superior liberal Democrat, I would say it is immoral to vote against Trump. It was immoral to vote for the Democratic Party, knowing that we would keep Americans in harm's way for indefinitely, even though President Trump negotiated his administration along with the Abraham Accords, along with being the first president to step foot in North Korea and begin détente between North and South Korea. He was the first president to actually get us out of, he got us out of these never-ending quagmires with an arrangement that he negotiated, that his administration negotiated to get us formally out of that conflict in 2015, on May 1st of this year. Biden will not honor that agreement. Okay? That's the moral foundation against voting for Democrats. If you voted for Democrats, you just don't care about never-ending conflict. I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to be like the liberal Democrats that judge everyone. But here, angry at his critics in the party and seeking to keep his options for raising money open, the former president is trying to take charge of the online fundraising juggernaut that he helped create. Washington. It was a familiar play by Donald J. Trump, lashing out at his adversaries and trying to raise money from it. A familiar play? Every Democrats have perfected the art of raising money through tragedy and through just this, through emotion. They from the Kavanaugh hearings, they raised money from that horrendous day where Trump never said the despicable people were fine people. That is a lie. They raised money, Democrats. They raised money on everything. They raised money from January. They raised money through, they raise money all the time. And they get caught with campaign finance violations, but nobody investigates. See, that's the thing. Trump makes allegations. Nobody investigates the allegations that Trump makes when it comes to him alleging certain things about the Democratic Party. Any allegation about Trump is investigated. Any allegation. So here, the former president this week escalated a standoff over the Republican Party's financial future, blasting party leaders and urging his backers to send donations to his new political action committee, not the institutional groups that traditionally control the GOP coffers. Are you kidding me? Where's the outrage or concern? Where was the concern in 2016 when you had actual agreements? Biden even had the same type of agreement where Democrats raised money and then the money was funneled into his political action committees. Most of Biden's donations were of large donations. Most of Trump's were smaller donations. That should tell you a little something about both candidates. But here, the aggressive move against his own party is the latest. It's not his own party. It is, kind of. It will be in 2022. The Republicans never really accepted Trump. God, why is that so difficult for the New York Times to understand? And they helped create this, like the New York Times, the Washington Post, Vanity Fair, Esquire, Mother Jones, The Nation, Rolling Stone, every major publication. Political discourse runs through the lenses of oftentimes apoplectic liberal journalists / activists. So their indiscretions, their campaign finance violations, whether it's AOC allegedly funneling millions from a PAC to private corporations, or her campaign manager. I mean, it's unbelievable, the duplicity and the disingenuous nature of this type of reporting. And he's not getting nearly as much money as Clinton or Biden got from his political party. And then they're lamenting, or they're so outraged, or they find it so bizarre that Trump would say, "No, give to my PAC." Well, of course, he should say that. The Republicans investigated him. It wasn't national security. If you think it was national security, you think Facebook ads were national security? We have a really good time, this is a really good time period in this country right now. We don't face any grandiose challenges like in the early 2000s. Which, if you look at Bush's response, was the worst possible response. But that's another story. We don't face the grandiose, you have Trump's personality as this existential issue that Democrats see as this, omnipresent nightmare. But here, the aggressive move against his own party is the latest sign that Mr. Trump is trying to wrest control of the low-dollar online fundraising, of the low-dollar juggernaut that he helped create, diverting it from Republican fundraising groups toward his own committee, which has virtually no restrictions on how the money can be spent. Suddenly the New York Times is worried about where the Republicans spend their money. The New York Times exists to first disparage Trump, then demean and undermine the Republican Party. Without like, the New York Times, the Washington Post used to be more objective. CNN used to be, actually, in many ways, conservative in the early 2000s. That's when conservatives had perhaps the wrong viewpoint on a bunch of things. So, I mean, people, like the pendulum swings. And sometimes what happens is you have political philosophy or political ideologies actually merging. And so you have the Lincoln Project people who are now completely disgraced, embedded within the Democratic Party. But the New York Times is... So you have the Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld people within the Democratic Party, and you see President Biden's going to keep us in these regions of conflict forever. That's why you don't vote Democrat. That's why I told people. So Bernie Sanders and the Lincoln Project voted for the same person. When I was the biggest Bernie Sanders booster on the internet, I thought that he would never do that, but he did. And they all embraced the intelligence community, the wonderful intelligence community. It's been wrong since the Bay of Pigs, the Gulf of Tonkin, WMD, now with the Facebook ads. It's pretty unbelievable. What's more, Mr. Trump's advisors believe the future of party fundraising is now low-dollar contributions. Of course it is. Not the class of major donors who have mostly signaled that they want a distance from him. Yeah, right, okay. After his months-long push. I love the outrage, too. Like, how dare Trump undermine the legitimacy? They spent 4 years with intelligence operatives. They say, well, it's the government. The government was undermining. It wasn't, and you know what? There was reason to disparage and demean and say that Trump shouldn't be trusted. I mean, we were upholding democracy by saying that you shouldn't trust democracy. They're all over the place, as always. If they didn't have Jimmy Kimmel, Trevor Noah, Jimmy Fallon, Stephen Colbert, all of Hollywood, intelligence operatives, Mitt Romney, Ben Sass, 7 or 8 other Republicans, top Republicans, if they didn't have social media algorithms, why do you think every single segment has, like, I talk about Trump? Oftentimes, if you put the word, like, if you just talk about Biden and Tara Reid, if you put that in the title, no good. I'm not going to get into it, but no good. Algorithms are not friendly to anyone that criticizes our wonderful president, Prince Valium, our wonderful, wonderful president, who's definitely with it and together and fantastic. He is He's absolutely fantastic in every way. Very, very knowledgeable and intelligent. Anyway, Clinton and Biden both had funding from their political parties, from the Democratic Party, funding agreements and arrangements where the political party would fund money into their campaigns and would even do so after. So if you want to say, well, Trump kind of had that, it's like, well, okay, but not to the extent. And at the end of the day, the Democrats did not investigate other Democrats. Well, now they are in New York because we know now that the tragedy, the past year, you could point to governors and Democratic governors like Cuomo who mismanaged their state and were blindsided by the pandemic. It wasn't Trump's fault. Oh, and by the way, every single thing that they were outraged from, they're now engaging in the same tactic. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? They're engaging in the same tactics. I don't even want to get into it, but every policy where they claim to be morally superior, just look. Biden is facing a crisis of his own making. And you better believe there won't be outrage. Their outrage is limited only to Trump, maybe to Republicans, but just not to Democrats, until a situation like in New York, and God bless the people of New York and New Jersey, Democrats ran those states into the ground. And now you have California's governor with a recall. Until the situation becomes absolutely untenable, just horrendous, then Democrats say something and say, well, you know what, maybe we should just Maybe we should just probably investigate the decision making of Cuomo. Cuomo. Trump spotted in New York for first time since leaving White House. Nice. President Trump is the Obi-Wan Kenobi of politics. He's going to gain in popularity if he just revamps himself in terms of a kinder, if you want to use the phrase kinder, gentler. If he communicates and displays his humanity, Democrats have no answer to him. Absolutely no answer. Give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe right now. He has every right to take every dollar from the Republican Party. Give me your thoughts. I'll be back later this evening with a live stream. Thank you.